what makes Harley so attractive. It's about creating this society of bikers. Harley's an American brand that people want to belong to.
Harley is all about individuality and self-expression within a defined community. We want you part of the tribe, but be as individual, as crazy as you want. You can be part of something that's really awesome, and you can be completely 100% yourself, and it's all celebrated.
We care about customers that come into our store, customers that want to be like us, that want to be with us, that want to ride with us. It's an amazing feeling to have someone change their life like that.
So I'm joined today by two people I've worked alongside with for more than 20 years, Sean Delaney and John Greene. Together, we've built dealerships, teams, and long-standing relationships rooted in trust and shared values. This is the first time we've sat down like this on a podcast, and we wanted to do it intentionally. This conversation is for our teams, our riders, and the communities we serve across both regions. No matter the location, the goal is the same: create a strong organization and an even better experience. My history of being in the motorcycle business is as a youth, I raced motorcycles until my late teenage years. And then I worked in a motorcycle store, started sweeping the floors and, being a technician, and worked my way through the business to where I became a general manager in Columbus, Ohio, and ultimately got a great opportunity to relocate to Southwest Florida, right here in Fort Myers, to manage a Harley Kawasaki dealership. And through the next 30 years, we built multiple stores across the country and a lot of great people along the way.
Sean Delaney, I've been doing this motorcycle thing for 22 years. Prior to that, I was in the boat business, and prior to that, I was in the nightclub business. So I actually ran into Scott probably 30 years ago, maybe more than that, at Norma Jean's nightclub in Fort Myers. And I worked for Diamond Dallas Page, the wrestler, and met Scott through, Diamond Dallas had a pink Harley. Scott sold him the pink Harley. So I knew Scott through that. And I was in that business forever. And then when I got out of that, I started working in a boat business, and that's where I met Scott on a boat, and got into, actually I started in the Kawasaki jet ski business. And that was running a place called West Coast Motorsports. West Coast had the most. And I did that, and then been with Scott and moved up into the Harley world. And I've been doing that for a really long time now too. So it's been a lot of fun. John, what did you do before Harley?
I've been a retailer really ever since I got out of college. I wanted to be I grew up in Colorado, and I wanted to be in the ski business. And so I graduated and I moved and I worked in a ski shop in Vail, Colorado for some years. And in some form or fashion, I've been in retail, whether as a salesperson, a manager, an owner, a trainer, a consultant, any number of things. But prior to being in Harley specifically, I was working for Ed Lemko. I was kind of the godfather of the 20 club business in the motorcycle industry, and I learned the business from him. But I met Scott along the way. Scott was the chairman of a 20 club peer group that I would attend, and I was always impressed with who he brought with him and how he carried himself. And we had an opportunity in 2005 to start up and go into business in where Sean is right now in Albuquerque. That store had its 20-year anniversary on December 1st of this year. Been a great run. Still is.
We've been through a lot together: growth, challenges, wins, tough decisions. What do you think allowed this partnership to last as long as it has? We talked a lot about this on the way here, Sean, down from Fort Myers down here to Naples, and there's a lot of stories. We need a lot of time to talk about what we've done together.
I think one of the major things is trust on a team. You have to trust the people you work with, and I know we work hard on that all the time. Especially, inside the dealerships, your teams have to trust each other because we have, motorcycles getting serviced. We have people buying motorcycles. And so, when you have you have to have trust, and then you have to have trust up the organization too. We have to, our employees got to feel valued at work. They have to feel good about what they're doing. They got to understand what they're supposed to do, and then we have to hold them accountable to doing it. So if we do all those things with our employees, we have to do that ourselves. So that comes from the top, So kudos to you, Scott, for holding those values true all these years, and really does help us to have a great, well-organized organization.
Yeah. John, how about you?
Yeah, no, I would certainly echo the trust piece. I think it comes from communication. It comes from, I think, clarity of objectives and alignment on what those objectives are. And I think, part of it for me is, Scott, you've always been one and continue to be somebody that looks not only for opportunity for growth for yourself but also the people in the company. And I think one of the later questions through here is, what is next year? What does good look like, or what would make you proud? And I think some of it is the tenure, right? Not just of this team, right? We've all worked together now 20 plus years. And we just had the opportunity at our last round this earlier in the month, right? To some of our holiday company events to hand out some prizes for people who've been with us, tenured managers for 20 years. So I think that retention of the people in the team is only comes from good leadership and again, trust, clarity, opportunity, all those pieces.
Yeah. I think it's a really a part of, who we are. I think that the focus we have with our customers and our staff is the same as it is with each other. You want to build a team that has a level of trust, and trust is really difficult to obtain in a business because egos get in the way, politics get in the way. So the work that we've done, and it didn't happen overnight, we've done a lot of work over a long period of time, and we still do that work today. Even though I might not be on the front line or on the floor like Sean or John is today, that stuff still comes, right to the top all the time. When you see issues in the business, you see that you have to work so hard on building great teams. We call it building health in the organization. So Sean, question for you. SFE West has done an incredible job building strong teams, consistent experience. From your seat, what made that possible?
I think what makes it possible is going back to that level of trust. And John mentioned tenure of employees. We have super long-term tenured employees, but it's not always easy. I think about one of my favorite people, Marcia, who's been with us she's just celebrating her 20-year anniversary. And Marcia is, she's not the easiest person to get along with. And sometimes I'm not the easiest person to get along with. And although we have had our back and forth, at the end of the day, we have a mutual respect, a mutual love of each other. And she's just such a great employee to have. And she's worked in every single department in the store. She learns, she's willing to grow as a person, but, she's also willing to give honest feedback back, and, every time, family members visit Albuquerque, she gives them a little, T-shirt or something, a little present, or, she sends my dad gifts for his birthday. And, she's just a very thoughtful, loving person. And, you don't get that right away. Because if you ever met Marcia, we always laugh because we're like, she's got a knife in her boot and she'll cut you. But but in reality, she's a really great employee. John's laughing. He knows I ain't kidding that much. But just really, she comes from northern New Mexico, and if you know anyone from northern New Mexico, they don't mess around. And Marcia's a rider. She went to mechanic school. But really one of my favorite people on the planet, because she's just a person that she don't hold back, but she's respectful and we're respectful back. And, I think that's the key. The key is to have those relationships with people that are open, that are, trust is not a one-way street. Trust is a two-way street. So if you don't have that trust between you, you're never going to get anyone to tell you what's really on their mind, or maybe what they're thinking about, or, hey, maybe if we tried it this way instead of your way, boss, I don't always have the right way to do it. Teams are much smarter than one person. So, I think that's super critical.
Yeah. So I think what's really important about what Sean is sharing there is when you visit Albuquerque, when you visit Thunderbird or Wicked West, which are the two stores in New Mexico, it's really clear that the employees there have a level of commitment to the business. I mean, you can feel it when you go in the stores. And, Sean's a tough leader, but he's consistent and he has an expectation that this is how we're going to do things. We're going to do them this way. And you know what? We're all going to have a great time, and we're going to be prosperous along the way. So it's exciting to go out there because, one thing that we see as leaders, whether it's in our business or if it's in restaurants or stores, is the lack of leadership or commitment by the staff. And that's the front line. When you don't have the commitment by the staff really doing the right job, you're really going to suffer in performance. So it's kudos to you, Sean, for making that happen. To you, John, Milwaukee is a new chapter for us, but this store, but it is a store with real history. I mean, it's Milwaukee Harley-Davidson. It's the home of Harley-Davidson, the brand, since 1903. Is that right? 1903? No. Yeah, since 1903. And we've looked at this opportunity. Culture mattered as much as performance. Why do you think Milwaukee is the right fit for SFE? Why do you feel that SFE can make Milwaukee Harley-Davidson a great brand again?
We've touched on culture a couple points here, right? So Milwaukee Harley-Davidson has what I would consider really all the necessary raw materials to be a great dealership, right? And it should be a great dealership. It should be held in a place of prominence. It should be something that the motor company can be proud of, the community can be proud of, the employees and so forth. But it's been a bit underloved, under-nurtured, understaffed, under-trained, under-inventoried. You can put all the unders you want in there. And I think there's a lot of operators that could go in there and put in efficient process, but that's not all that's required up there, right? It really is a cultural shift. Back to what, Sean in Thunderbird is, you've got 20 years there. And Sean, how many of those 20, how many have you been there now?
15.
10? 8?
15. Somewhere in there, 15, 14. Yeah, because I left for a couple years and I was out there when Maddie.
And so
I think about, because I've been back 10 and then I was here for 2 and I was there for 3. So it's getting on close to 15 years.
Well, I was there from right from the beginning of, from December of 2005 through the end of 2010.
Yeah, and then Glow for a year. And then, so I've been there 14 years.
And so I think what happened, Scott, back to the Milwaukee thing, I think we understand the recipe to create a healthy culture in the store. And that's what Milwaukee hasn't had. And so I think but trust, even though, Sean, you're right, it is a two-way street, it takes a while to build that. That's a lot of my work right now. I'm there on the floor on basically a daily basis, and it's building trust with the department managers. It's building trust with everybody in that dealership. It's building trust with the customers that come in, with other community leaders that we have in contact. And it's about being respectful. It's about being consistent in our delivery of the experience at that store. It's about challenging one another. And people that have gone, you guys have both done this, right? Trying to change for the better a culture in any business, because if the culture gets right, then the ability to execute process and deliver consistently gets that much better. But it starts with the people side. So I think, Scott, the succinct answer to that question, why is it a fit for SFE? because I think we understand the organizational health model, and that helps us build healthy companies that allow us to actually deliver a good product. And so that's the bulk of the work right now in both of those locations. West Bend as well.
I think that when we looked at potential new opportunities, which, I didn't know that we were going to do, but the market kind of opened up for us to look at potential opportunities. I think that one of the reasons why Milwaukee was of interest to us, look, there's a lot of things wrong about Milwaukee. The weather's not great for a big part of the year. There's a lot of competition there because it's home of Harley-Davidson. But Milwaukee Harley-Davidson, the store that we purchased, clearly was not the store leading the marketplace. And the opportunity to take our brand and how we create the culture inside the business where employees want to belong and customers want to purchase products was exciting. It was exciting for our brand. Some people ask, what are you going to do? What are you going to do later in your career? One of the things that I feel that we all are very proud about is that we do focus on people first. We focus on how do you get employees really to rally around becoming a great tribe, becoming a great team, whatever you want to call it. How do you really bring them together through trust, through alignment, through a lot of education, through a lot of consistent communication. And when that happens, which as John has identified is, it hasn't happened in Milwaukee or in West Bend. Thank you. In West Bend, the two dealerships up there have been the employees have been left alone. They've been left to fight for themselves. There's been no leadership. So when that happens, the customers feel it. And we've been able to work really hard in a short period of time. And you can see the difference in West Bend. You can clearly see West Bend, we bought the stores at the same time. West Bend's had an opportunity to really dig in and make change quicker. And you can see the staff is changing and the customers are changing. I asked you the question, what do you think? Why do you think Milwaukee is important? To me, I think Milwaukee is important and the opportunity in that market's important so that we can continue to, quite frankly, show the rest of the industry that what we do, how we focus on health is important. I know that it frustrates Sean. It's always frustrated me that when we work in management groups together, we see dealers that are really struggling. And, they're struggling because their lack of alignment, their lack of leadership in their stores. And when you talk about health, they kind of laugh at you. And that's very typical because to lead a company, focus on health, focus on all these things, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of vulnerability. It's very frustrating because a lot of employees don't want to be led that way, or they don't want to work that hard. They don't want to smile every day. They don't want to work as hard as it takes to turn people on. So I really am excited about the opportunity of turning those stores around and making them world-class stores.
When trust starts to happen, you can actually feel it, right? And so on Saturday, right, we've been pushing a lot of things in Milwaukee right now, right? Reputation change, using the staff as the internal BDC, drive traffic, so on and so forth. So we had a few different events that happened at the dealership on Saturday and had great turnout on all of those. And one of those, Scott, was the winter storage event. And I'll give you some more details on that offline. But when you see positive results come from a team that maybe kind of grudgingly went into this, but did the work and starts to see the positive return on that work, and that positive return was customer traffic, gratitude from the customers, good business that we did, that's when the trust starts to happen and the team starts to come together, right? They need little wins that demonstrate what we're pushing on from process and health and communication and clarity, all those things. even little wins, we got to make big deals of those things because it reinforces the behaviors that we're trying to instill right now. So it was a good, when I left for the airport on Saturday, I left on a very good note because there was a buzz in the store with the staff and with the customers that I don't know that store's seen in a long time. So
Did you sell any motorcycles?
it was good. It was a good day.
Did you sell any bikes?
We sold one.
There you go. That helps too.
We'll take one.
Yeah, it was.
One's a sell. It's better than no sales.
It was 15
Gotta
degrees.
sell
wasn't it?
motorcycles.
One bike in 15-degree weather isn't a bad day.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was up there. It was balmy that day, man. It was, I don't know what it was. Mid-30s. It was a nice day.
So look, we talk a lot about organizational health. For us, it's not a theory. It shows up every day in how people feel at work and how customers feel when they walk in the store. You know, here's the question I have for you, Sean and John. In your opinion, how does organizational health show up on the showroom floor?
Well, in Albuquerque, it's really it's a windy, dusty place, and bikes get dirty inside and outside, which is funny. So you get dust all over everything. And if you ask me, like, what does it mean? It means like when an employee comes into work, that they see. We always have a big sales meeting every morning. People are on time. They have their books with them. They have their pens with them. They're ready to go. They're in uniform. And then when we get done, we have to set up the showroom and we have to set up the outside. We have a big outside area. And, they have to make sure the bikes look good. Like that to me is like the first step of anything. Does our place look good? Does the building look good? And the employees are the ones that make that happen. If you have a dirty, messed up environment, that tells the customers that, you're not really taking this professionally. You're not doing those things. So when the employees look good, they feel good, they act good, they got their name tags on, they're ready to rock, they're wiping bikes down, they're making sure the showroom looks good, the bikes look good. Then when a customer walks in, they're ready, the customers are ready, and that's when you start to have really good interactions. And I know it's kind of basic, but if you don't, I think it was in Donald Trump's book, we talk about it all the time. He went to a car dealership and he said, if you can't keep your cars clean, what else can't you do? So, if you keep the motorcycles clean and fresh and looking good, when customers come, they realize this is a professional place and they want to do business with you. And then, it radiates in everything, it radiates in, are the bathrooms clean? Are the areas where you catch a soda clean? I don't know. I think the look and the feel of the store comes from the employees. No building sets a tone. What sets a tone is the employees inside the building. So, they look good. The building looks good. That's when you have, I think, really a great feeling in the store.
So, John, what Sean just shared there was really what you do experience when you walk in the store. I shared earlier the comment when I walk into Sean's store, which I just did a week ago. What he just demonstrated, what he just shared, is what I seen when I walked in there. The store, it's wintertime there, but that store was alive. I mean, that store had energy in it. There was a appointment board. There might have only been one appointment, but there was an appointment on the appointment board as I walked in the door, welcoming the customers in. The employees were very motivated, cleaning bikes, moving bikes, merchandising clothing. Their attention to customers and each other was, really what would be considered world-class in our business or in any business, because the frustration all of us feel all the time, especially when this is your expectation, when you go into restaurants or retail today, the customer service is very poor. It's just not good like it should be. And businesses miss the single greatest advantage they can have, which is creating health in their organization. But all that being said, John, how would you compare what we currently have? And, I think this is a good comparison because you don't have that yet. It's not there yet. So you understand what Sean just explained and I just reiterated. How would you share what that experience feels like today so that anybody listening can realize that's what we want to move to?
you've got what I would consider a very mature business in New Mexico, right? Consistent leadership, tenured employees, and that starts to show. It's a consistency of leadership. It's good training. It is accountability and discipline at first to the most basic things like name tags and uniforms and being on time and emptying the trash, right? If we can't get that done, how are we going to do anything really meaningful? And so where we are today is in both of the stores much more immature, right? So this level of discipline, this level of standard is, I'm not going to say foreign, but a bit foreign to the teams in both of these stores. And so if you go in and you just tell people to do something and you tell them a couple times and then it kind of goes by the wayside, it's just going to fall apart, right? So this is all about not only speaking it, but demonstrating it with consistency of, how do I work and when do I get there and how do I have my meetings? And you set an example that way. But where you really want to get, because Sean, as you were talking about all those different things about cleanliness and uniforms and energy and so forth, the staff, what you want to do is you want to get them to be proud of who they are and where they work when they show up. Or I don't care if it's inside or outside the dealership, right? I want everybody at West Bend or Milwaukee or Wicked West or Thunderbird, insert the name of the store, to feel proud of the work that they're doing, the development that we provide them, the service that we offer. Because if they feel pride, right, then they are going to be in uniform, and they are going to be on time, and they do want to attend the trainings, and they are going to pick up the piece of trash, and they are going to help out a coworker. They are going to go a little bit above and beyond with a customer when necessary. And so it's that, again, it comes back to the trust piece, the communication side, and helping them understand that, look, the purpose of why we're in this, right, is to make people's lives better. If we can get our people, every one of them, to believe that every day, not only their lives, internal lives, external lives, then you end up with a proud crew that executes well, and the customers feel it, right? That culture's tangible. I think we all know that.
So, Sean, how do you feel the employee experience impacts the customer experience? So if we do a great job, which you do a great job getting your employee experience at a very high level, how do you think that really impacts our customers?
Well, I think every year we teach leadership. We do the John Maxwell's 5 levels of leadership every year. And why I bring that up is because great leadership, like John said, it starts to really work into everyday life. So if you got employees that are, I don't think of any employees as employees. I think of every employee as a potential leader, as someone who can, we talk about distributed leadership. It's one of our tenets. And like those things are so important because everybody is a leader inside the store. If you have a guy who's delivering a motorcycle to somebody, when he goes to the customer's house, how's he presenting himself? He's a leader of his own world, and so he or she has to feel that leadership ability in everything that they do. And when people are empowered like that, then that really does set us up to be a lot different, and if you want to provide a great customer experience, I agree with John, that level of pride is there, but level of pride is one thing. And then level of leadership is another, I can only be at the store so many hours a day, so many days a week. So when I'm not there, who are the other leaders? So if you're building leaders in every single department, in every single place that you can in the dealership, when you're not there, you have a bunch of leaders doing a great job, And so I think I'm not sure if I'm answering the question exactly to the way it was asked, but I think distributed leadership and great leaders in every single avenue of the business matter a lot.
It's very difficult for you, Sean Delaney, or John Greene, or me, Scott Fischer, single-handedly to create the kind of customer experience that we want customers to have. It takes our staff to do that. So, the one thing missing in especially our industry right now is the level of attention, the commitment that employees have to the company, Okay, so employees need to have, number one, the commitment to the company. It just has to happen. They have to believe in the company and what the company's purpose is. And the reason why most employees don't understand that is because nobody ever tells them. Nobody ever spends the time. One of the things that we learned right initially in our organizational health strategy was that the reason why great leaders don't spend time on health is because it's really not very sexy. It's hard work. It takes a lot of effort and time, and people don't want to spend the time to do it. And as it turns out, it's the single greatest competitive advantage that any business can have, because it's about leading your people to do the best job possible for the customer. So,
can I jump back in there?
Yeah.
I think, Scott, a lot of times these days people say, oh, young people, they don't want to work, or, oh, they're so lazy, or, oh, they're always on social media. I hear other dealers sometimes say that. I don't find that at all. I find young people super engaged. But they just need they need to be empowered. They need to feel empowered to do a great job. And I have a lot of young people that work for me. As a matter of fact, I have a young lady who is our general sales manager. And, in the Harley world, that's kind of unique in itself, and, Alex has blue hair and she's all tatted up and she's a very unique person, but she's on time for work every day. She's always in uniform. She's a very consistent, person. She's great with employees, and she's a young person herself. I don't see that. I don't see what other people say sometimes, and it's very cynical, but I see young people as they have a lot of energy. They're here. They're looking for that leadership. They're looking for that opportunity, to do a great job, but you just got to give them that opportunity, and so, I think our organization does that. We've grown so many people, so many great people over the years, whether they're with us or not with us any longer, in these great roles. I mean, that's being a great leader isn't only that they always work for us. It's when they leave us and then they represent us in other industries or other places, and they're great leaders there too. That's the greatest reward that you can have, I think.
Yeah. John, you have any comments on that? You got a fairly big job ahead of you to really bring employee experience, bring health to that organization. And that doesn't mean that it's bad, that the people are bad there. It's just, their focus on health the way we see it. How do you feel that will impact our customers?
Look, the customers engage with the front line. I mean, the customer engage with anybody that comes in there. It's not always going to be me. It's not always going to be one of the department managers. It's going to be anybody. It's going to be a service writer. It's going to be somebody at the parts counter. It could be a driver, like Sean said. It could be, how clean does the bike look when it comes out of the wash bay, and the detail team there. But again, Scott, I think they have to believe that what we're doing is a good thing there. Right? They have to understand that our duty is to represent not only SFE, but also Milwaukee Harley-Davidson or West Bend Harley-Davidson, and also Harley-Davidson as a brand itself. They need to be trained, right? They need to understand how to get from X to Y. What does good customer experience look like? What is engagement actually supposed to look like and feel like? What's an example of a good one and a bad one? So they want to be led that way. But I also think, and this isn't specific to generations, they really want to be heard, right? We can't just say we know the way. We can say, look, we've got a proven methodology on the culture and the health side of the business, but we're always open to hear from you about what's a challenge, what's an opportunity. Maybe you have a better idea. So if we can have that open dialogue, that trusting dialogue, then I think they become more bought in to where we're going because they've been part of it, they've been heard, and then they want to go deliver on that to the customer. And we do that, the customer feels it, right? The customer, you can sense when a customer is completely tuned into what we're doing. And so that's, again, I jotted down when you said why leaders don't do this, Scott, you've mentioned this. I know, Sean, you've shared this a few times at some of these peer meetings we go to. And we talk about organizational health and it kind of gets poo-pooed. And it's because of those three biases, right? There's an adrenaline bias that says, I don't want to work on that because it just doesn't happen fast enough. Typically as leaders, we want stuff to happen like right now. Putting organizational health in and building trust is a slow burn. So they don't do it for that, right? Sophistication bias is the other one, right? Now that's just kind of touchy-feely stuff. I need to go back to the process. So they don't pay attention with that. And the third one is you can't measure it, right? There's a quantification bias that says, how am I supposed to measure health? How do I measure culture? If I can't measure it, I can't manage it. Well, I think we know that the measure of health is felt in the tangible culture. Ultimately, employee retention, the business that's done, the profitability of the stores, all those things I believe stem from the healthy side. But it takes a lot of work, right?
Yeah, how many hot chapter members?
We've been practitioners, I tell people, of this for 20 years. Yeah.
Yeah, how many hot chapter members does your chapter have? How involved in the riding community are you? How much charitable work is getting done in the community? Those things all factor into that because, to the customer experience is where we started, but that's the employees make the customer experience. If you don't have employees helping customers or, living with, we just had a hog chapter Christmas party. We have it at the dealership every year. We had 200 people together, employees come. My family's was serving the food. That matters to people. That matters to customers when they see my kids up there, putting the food on the plates. My wife was up there too, and I think that means something to people. When they get to see that. And I was going to bring this up with service leaders. Servant leadership. You can't be a leader and not serve your employees and serve your customers. And if you can get your employees thinking, we're here to serve our customers, that changes the games considerably, that comes across to people very tangible. If you ride with employees, when you ride with employees and you ride with customers and you go places and you have lunch together and you live in life together, that's the stuff people really resonate with, in this world of, TikTok and Snapchat and all this stuff, they're looking for tangible connections in real life. And when you ride motorcycles together and you go places together and you experience things together and you went on a ride somewhere for overnight they never forget it, and that matters a lot. And it matters to employees as much as it matters to customers, employee, when we first took over Top Rocker out in California, our big strategy was just to ride. We were going to ride every Monday with employees and we rode everywhere. And then we rode with our customers, and we rode PCH Highway every Monday and we went into a different place and, we'd meet everybody in the community, but we met them from motorcycles. We didn't meet them from coming into the store. We met them on seats, and I think that factors in a lot to, there's the guys from Harley, not just being at Harley, but being in the community riding with them, and that makes a big difference. It makes a big difference in Albuquerque and Santa Fe too. Santa Fe, we do the same thing with our hog chapter. We try to ride and go out and do things together. And I think I'm talking a lot about that, but that's how you really do build the bonds between customers and employees.
I think what's interesting is some of the things that we can share with people that develops over time when you create health in an organization, when that's what you believe in first, is when there are challenges that happen in the business, it doesn't matter what department it is, it doesn't matter what really the type of challenge is, you tend to always look back on how is the alignment, how is our communication, how is the health in this department? And oftentimes it comes back to that health slips a little bit, maybe the wrong people. I think one of the greatest things that's happened over years is that our employees tend to be the people who fire people before we do, meaning our employees will come to Sean or come to me and say, look, we are really challenged with the new guy or the old guy. And, it's employees really looking out in the best interest of the business. And it's a part of what health does. Once you create health in an organization, some people just don't fit in. And, and as a leader, you have to make those moves, and you have to make them quick with people who don't fit in, or else employees will begin to lose trust in the leadership because they may not feel leadership believes in health the same way.
The employees that we want to work with us, they want something more than just showing up for a paycheck, right? They need to understand our core purpose. They need to believe in the core values. They need to want to deliver a great experience because they want to be part of something that they can be proud of again, right? And again, they want leadership. They want a voice. They want to be heard. They want to be cared about. And they want genuine leadership. There's no magic to this other than consistency and effort.
So John, whether someone works or a customer purchases from SFE West or SFE East, what do you want them to know about how we lead and what we're building together?
I think it's not a tough question, but after you've been doing it for a really long time, it's not something that really you have to think about, it just comes naturally. We mentioned process and procedure. Customers need to understand a process and procedure that's underlying. It's not front and center like, hey, Mr. Customer, you have to do this, this, and this. It's not the case. You want it to be a seamless experience. You mentioned, a customer, a lot of people are shopping online now, so they put in a request for quote. They want to know what, about the motorcycle they're looking at. So, how do we reach out? How do we contact them? You mentioned our appointment board. How do we bring them in for appointment? Welcome them into the dealership. Again, does the dealership look right for when they get there? Is the bike out front? Is it gassed up? Are they ready to go for a test ride? These are little things that they seem elementary, but just to get, in the morning, you got 20 appointments. You got to have 20 bikes sitting out there. You have to have them all gassed up, ready to go. You got to have jackets for people to ride with and helmets, and they have to be ready and they have to be clean. So these are underlying procedures that need to get done. And again, it all goes back to employees, because if they don't give a crap, then the customer shows up, the bike's not ready, the bike's dirty, there's no helmet, they're scrambling. The customers are like, I'm going to buy a bike from these bozos? No. So if everything is really, really laid out and thought about and reinforced every day, and the salesmen care, because they know when the customer shows up from that, let's just use the internet appointment. They show up at 10 o'clock and now the bike's there. It's sitting there. It's looking good. It's clean. It's got gas in it. They can go right for a test ride. Customer's time isn't wasted. All that stuff is super critical. And there's little things like the name on the bike, the name on the board when the customer shows up, who they know who to ask for. They had their appointment confirmed. Those are all, they sound little, but to get that to happen when you have 15, 16 employees, salespeople, fit specialists, that's the stuff that's hard. But if you have a great process and procedure and that's reinforced every day, that's the stuff that customers don't see, but they feel. They feel that. They come in, this is a professional organization. The bike looks good. The salesman looks good. I'm ready to do something here, I'm ready to make that purchase because this is the right place to purchase. That's the other thing. Are we the right place to make the purchase? And do we have a great reputation in our service department? Customers know that stuff. Can they accessorize their motorcycle? Can they get cool jackets, and can they get, cool helmets and all the things that go along with the motorcycle? It's not just selling them the motorcycle, it's selling them the entire lifestyle and really making them feel like that. And then when they buy the bike, they have somewhere to go, somewhere to hang out, somebody to ride with, Are they coming to our rides? Are we inviting them to our rides? Are we getting them to join the hog chapter so they have additional rides to go on? That's the process that, it's not exactly linear. It's more, okay, what's the feel like? But the process has to be below all that.
To be great in retail, probably great in any business, but look, we're talking retail here. It is the relentless execution of minor details every day, right? Because everything you just said, Sean, those are all small things, but they lead to a big experience. But you got to pay attention to the minutia every single day. And it's a grind, right? Retail's a grind because we've got to get the staff fired up to do the same thing they did yesterday and the day before, and they're going to do tomorrow and the day after, right? You got to get them excited. And the way that we get them excited or keep them focused is, look, when somebody walks in the door of one of our stores today, number one, it could be the first time they've ever been in a Harley-Davidson dealership in their life. We can't let them down. It's built up so big in their head. We can't be the one that just takes the wind out of their sail right there because we had somebody that was having a bad day, somebody was late, somebody wasn't trained on a greet. That's not allowed, right? Because when they come in there, even if it's not their first time in, people come into our stores, any retail, restaurant, anything, because they want to be somebody different for a little while. They want to escape something. They want to be influenced. They want to be inspired. They want to talk to somebody different, right? That's our job to do that stuff. And the community that you mentioned, right? If we just sell somebody a motorcycle and that's the end of it, we fail. We have to create reasons for people to come back to the store and hang out because they want to be part of that community. They want to be part of that brotherhood that's there, sisterhood, the tribe, whatever you want to call it. And we also need to create reasons to put them on their motorcycles and ride for all the things that you mentioned, Sean, but a motorcycle in the garage does nobody any good. They're not riding it. They're mad they still have a payment. They're not enjoying the lifestyle. They're not having the friends. They're not part of the hog chapter. They're not coming back to us for our events. They're not coming back for service, for new boots, for new tires, for the next motorcycle. So our job, I tell people regularly, say, look, the only thing you have to pay for here is you pay for the motorcycle. All the rest of the stuff, the events, the reasons to ride, all that stuff's free to you, right? The bike's inexpensive relative to what you get because it really can change your life for the better. And, that's that overarching message, that high level message. If we consistently drive that in, helps with the execution of those little details every day. And that's really our job, right? Pay attention to the details, but inspire with the messaging up here. And it's gratifying when it works.
What really matters most to me is that our teams know this. Growth doesn't change who we are. It strengthens our responsibility to lead well. So as we have grown like we have in the last few years, our responsibility has just gotten greater, in what we have to do. Whether you're in SFE West or SFE East or stepping into a store with a long and proud history like Milwaukee, the commitment is the same. We lead with organizational health. We respect the people who built what came before us, and we stay focused on the experience we create every day. When you're in an organization like this that focuses on health, and I know we keep using the word health, and we keep this, it just keeps coming up here. Isn't it ironic that it keeps coming up here? We're having this conversation, and we're not talking about loud pipes or burnouts or inventory turns. We're not talking about those things. We're talking about people. And I think that, it's so important for our customers to understand what's most important to us. And it is about winning their trust, and the work that we got to do to build trust in our organization. I mean, I think this is a really hard job that we have, Sean, if you step away for a week, what happens? Things will shift a little bit because the intensity just has to stay there all the time. The leadership in the store has to always be pushing, the expectation of everything we do, everything we've learned, everything we do, we have to push that expectation all the time.
Yeah, I think you mentioned expectation, but we'll use Wicked West as an example. We bought Wicked West, I think it was 4 years ago, coming up on 4 years ago, and owned by David Pearson, great guy, ran the store for many years. It was a great experience to buy the store and to transition with that store. But it takes time to put your own team in place and get a great leader in there. And we had somebody up there now, Corey, who's just a great guy, and he really gets it, and he's really working hard. And you see that, like you mentioned, stepping away. When you have great leaders around you, you can step a little bit away because they can take over But they have to understand the mission too. They have to understand the dailies too. And if they do, then it works really, really well. And, at the same time, you mentioned challenges. We all have challenges. We know in our business, different things happen. People are, infallible, not perfect, whatever the word is. But every day, those people get to come to work and be as good as they can be every day. And you have to have leaders helping them to be their best every day. And if the ultimate leader, whether it's the general manager or the owner or whatever, those people have to be willing to get down. I mentioned all those things about wiping the bikes down, but are you willing to do that? Because I wipe bikes down every day. Are you willing to get in there and help and move motorcycles and, be there and, clean motorcycles if a customer's bike's dirty and, they're coming to pick it up and we don't have anybody there to do it? Are you willing to go out into the, wash bay and wash the bike, so that the customer can get a clean bike back? Just because your bike washer isn't there that day doesn't change anything. And then, is your manager willing to do that? Is the technician who's getting paid to work on motorcycles willing to do that? And when everybody's willing to do that, that's when you really get the gold. That's really when the customer's happy, the employees are happy, everybody's working together to make things great.
Honestly, we talk about it a lot over the years, is what makes Harley so attractive, and it's not the fastest motorcycle on the market. It's not the best handled motorcycle on the market. Although arguably today, it maybe is at the top of the quality level of all the brands on the market. But I think really it's the brand that Harley is about. It's about creating this society of bikers. And, whether you're a hardcore biker or whether you're a wannabe biker, Harley's an American brand that people want to belong to. And I think that, there's a lot of reasons why people buy motorcycles. One might be for looks. One might be for adventure. But I think mostly they buy Harleys for the social aspect of it. When you ride a Harley and you drive into any place, somebody walks out and looks at your motorcycle. Conversations start. John mentioned it earlier. People walk into a dealership and they want to be seen, they want to be heard, they want to feel like they're part of a tribe or whatever you want to call that. But Harley is a product that creates that. And I mean, arguably, I'm not really sure what compares to it. I'm not sure at what compares to it, because everybody at almost every demo, except for very young, knows what the Harley brand is. They know that it's a iconic brand. It's an American brand. I mean, everything about America, everything about the culture we have here is kind of built into Harley-Davidson. And man, do we need it? Do we need the resurgence of that brand right now? We've lost some bit of that, through challenging leadership at Harley-Davidson. And I'm not saying anything that the country doesn't know, or the dealerships don't know, or the customers don't know. There's been a challenge over the last few years, and we're bringing it back. We're fortunate to be bringing it back in Milwaukee, and we're continuing to drive it in New Mexico. But that's, people ask all the time about the Harley brand, and I think it's just, it's the American iconic aspect of it.
Yeah, I think all you got to do is go to Sturgis and you see it. You just take a trip to Sturgis and you go ride in Sturgis, and it's like nothing you've ever experienced. To see 200,000 motorcycles all together for a week and people hanging out, and everybody gets along and everybody's having a good time, and that's all you got to do. If you ever want to see the culture in full bloom, it is at Sturgis. And I've had the privilege to go a few times now, and every single time I go, I'm more blown away. I'm like, holy cow, man, this is so cool. Last time I was there, I was up on stage with Jesse James Dupree from Jackal. I had Run DMC on the stage, and there's 30 Harley dealers, and we're giving away a Harley motorcycle, and one of my customers won, and he won a CVO motorcycle, and it changed this cat's life, man, and he was it was just amazing. It was something to be experienced, to go to Sturgis. It's just like nothing you could imagine. And, people say, oh, I don't ride, you don't have to ride. Just go, just go and check it out. You can rent a bike while you're there, whatever. But Sturgis sums it up, and, in our store, we don't care about what the motor company's doing, and we don't care about what Indian's doing. And we don't, what we care about? We care about customers that come into our store, customers that want to be like us, that want to be with us, that want to ride with us, and that's a big factor, because if you're worried about what the guy at Harley's doing, the CEO, or you're worried about what the Indian guy is doing over there, you got your eye off the ball, which is the eye on the ball needs to be the customer walking through the door, giving them a great experience, making them love our brand, making them understand, women riders, women are a huge growing segment of the riding. Are they being welcomed into the dealership? Are they being made to feel like part of what we do? Are they willing, to be part of the, Scott mentioned the tribe, and, how are you reaching out to them? How are you making them feel when they come in the store? Young people, man, it's hard to walk in. I remember first time I went in a Harley store, I was like 20. I had a Jeep and I wanted to get a Harley sticker for the front of it. And I walked in, I'm like, man, this is intimidating. And, a bunch of big dudes and burly bikers. And, I was like, oh man, but everybody was nice. I realized that they were just people like I was. And, I got that sticker and that's where it kind of started. The sticker on my Jeep became, a life of riding motorcycles in 20 years later or whatever, and just because, it's so hard to go into a store like that, to see that bar and shield and think, man, this is going to be, but when you come in and you can make those customers feel part of something, they meet a really cool fit specialist or sales, whatever you want to call it. I don't know what everybody calls them, just whatever. When they come in, they meet that person walks them around, shows them, around the store, tells them, and even if they don't buy anything from us, did we make them feel good? Did we make them go, those are cool cats over there. I want to hang with them. I want to eventually ride with them. Maybe it's not today. Maybe it's not for me right now, but down the road when I'm ready to go, that's where I want to do business. I want to do business with those guys over there or girls over there, whatever. It doesn't matter. You can't miss every single day, every customer. Everybody that comes in the store is a chance to change their life. And if you can change their life and make them feel that way, boy, it's like John said, it's that feeling, man. It's electric when that feeling happens, Customer buys the bike, they ring the bell, they get on that motorcycle. I mean, it's an amazing feeling to have someone change their life like that. And it's great. It's really wonderful, wonderful job.
Going back to the primary question, right? Why do people stay so brand loyal for so long with Harley? And I think to me, it's fairly simple. Harley is all about individuality and self-expression within a defined community, right? And sometimes inside communities, everything is a bit homogenized and people are kind of similar. And Harley is the other way. We want you part of the tribe, but be as individual, as crazy as you want to, right? That's why everybody's got a different look on their bike, right? We get all the different customized bikes and colors and sound and exhaust and lighting and all the different things like that. And then we get to dress up our own person on those bikes, and everybody's got their own little flair. So I think the ability to, beyond being Americana and all those things that are really true to the brand as well, it's, hey, you can be part of something that's really awesome and you can be completely 100% yourself and it's all celebrated. And I think that's a unique combination for people to want to be part of, right? You get to the people who ride their bikes every day, this is their lifestyle. Awesome. The people that ride once a week, once a month, something like that, that one day a week or one day a month, they get to be somebody completely different than they are the rest of their life, right? They put on a different costume, they go hang out with different people, and the brand celebrates and allows that stuff. I think who would not want to be part of that? It's a great allure.